Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Rouge Rugby Podcast, focusing on real Canadian rugby. I'm Stu Hardy, joined as always by Derek. Derek, it's been a bit of a quiet week. Obviously, the Arrows had their first preseason game of the year, taking place in Michigan against the Rugby New York Ironworkers. And we got some information of that on social media. There's been some sevens action as well, but it's been all quiet on the Canadian front this weekend.
Yeah, it has been. Obviously we got the Arrows preseason game to get to, and then a little bit of seven stuff as well. No new Canadian signings in MLR. Yeah, man. I'd like to take a second to apologize for how late the episode was last week. That's kind of, my car broke down during the snowstorm, so that rode off one night really annoyingly. And then my laptop had a whole bunch of issues with it when I was trying to do the rest of it. So that Corey Thomas episode, as fun as that was super delayed. So apologies for that. And hopefully it won't happen again, and this will all go so much smoother. Just putting that out. It's gonna go flawlessly, effortlessly, perfect podcast episode about to commence, and on time, hopefully as well.
He says this as he'll be listening to that clip multiple times during editing when the inevitable error messages come up.
Exactly.
Hopefully, yes, we will not have any cards breaking down or any laptops deciding to install Skynet on them. And
I think that is the issue. It's got Skynet. It's got Ultrons on there now. Yeah. It's got every evil AI that's ever been thought of, I think, is inhabiting my laptop at the moment. So yeah. Did you just I'll be happy if this just gets out at this point.
All right. Well, we're going to dive into it, and as I said, the preseason fixture obviously, it's very difficult to have preseason fixtures in Toronto, especially with the weather that we've been having. And
so we went to the tropical climate of Detroit.
Yeah, Detroit, Michigan. It's the summer state of Americas. That's what I was told. And why would I have any reason to say? We've reached out to the Toronto Arrows, but obviously, there's a few secrets we have to keep under wraps just to be absolutely certain. But yeah, so this event took place in Michigan. Obviously, it's there's not a real reason that's been given, but I think it's, helping the MLR get out there, and anything that the Arrows can do to get more fans to come to games. Detroit isn't that far away from Toronto compared to other American cities, and if you can get that Detroit population and Michigan population to root for the Arrows instead of Chicago and Illinois, then I think you've got to win.
There is absolutely no way anybody from Detroit is cheering for a team in Chicago. Just principle.
True, but you have to give them an option.
We don't have to worry about that.
You have to give them an option, though. It's just because they say, I'm not going to cheer for Chicago doesn't mean I'm going to cheer for Toronto. That's what I mean.
We do not have to worry about people in Detroit cheering for any team in Chicago, ever.
Yeah.
So I think the Arrow, that's probably the Arrow's territory, because there's no point in that being Chicago territory.
So what's been going on in this preseason fixture? Because, there was, try score, there were scrummages happened, but there wasn't like a, up to date of what the score is as the match progressed. Unfortunately, the location that was there has a relatively low ceiling, which, it's an indoor venue, of course. It's probably going to have a much lower ceiling than, so all those box kicks aren't really going to have as much effect as they would on an open field, but you make do with what you can. And as a result, it was more of a controlled scrimmage rather than a traditional preseason friendly. Both teams, they're trying to get all the players they've got to get a little bit of game time. So he was saying there was rolling substitutions, basically changes every 20 minutes. And so, when the standard water break is, basically half the team would come off and half the team would come back on and, mix it up. It's not really, I know when we spoke to Corey about this last week, he's like, oh yeah, just a win's a win's a win's a win, and everyone wants to get a win. But it's hard to say and hard to control when you got a lot of fresh faces on both sides, and you're just trying to see how things go. So both sides had close to full squads, so players were coming in and out pretty regularly. So yeah, very balanced game, full of great intensity. Most onlookers would have probably agreed that Toronto was a stronger side in the first half and New York in the second half. So evenly balanced and things like that. And they did say because of the low ceiling that any time that the ball was kicked up and did hit the ceiling, that just meant an attacking scrum in its place. So, a lot of work for the forwards to capitalize on and, get things nailed down before the season proper hit. But, it does seem to be the nature of the beast. It does seem to be you take what you get and you get what you can and you make the most of what's available. So for that reason, because of the low ceiling, because of the rolling substitutions, it felt more like a scrimmage, which to be honest is something that Toronto and New York have a history of when they would have games in Buffalo. So it does sound reasonable to, continue this kind of trend. Maybe when global warming hits Toronto specifically at Lamport Stadium and makes it 30 degrees Celsius in the middle of January and February, then we'll probably get a home season, preseason fixture. But until then, unfortunately, it's going to be these kind of things.
A home game in the first half of the season.
Yeah, can you imagine? But yeah, so from the information we've got and from like the footage that we've seen, it was a lot of the images you're seeing like multiple different kits for the Arrows.
Yeah.
So a few academy teams, a few jerseys from last season or from 2021. Did anything really stand out to you at all, Derek?
Well, that one clip, Kieran Breen's try was nice. Hopefully they keep that up, and it looks like they use the mall as the platform for a nice little set piece play. Yeah, I mean, I think there's not really much to add to what you said, Stu. I mean, obviously, unless you made the trip to Detroit, or it wasn't actually in Detroit, right? It was in some.
Yeah, it was just out of Detroit. But it's one of the things of like
it's like we're gonna call it Detroit because we're not gonna we won't bother to look at a map. But yeah, so it's like it's not there's not much else to really add to it. Just because like we didn't see the game, and I think we did talk about this on the podcast last year. I think preseason is still an area that the MLR can in general like improve on, because I think these are games and stuff that like people would be interested in watching in some capacity. And I believe the argument that we made last year as well was like it's high performance sport and we know you're filming it. So just like it doesn't have to be live, but like put it on YouTube or something after. I think fans across the league would be interested in seeing stuff like this if two teams are, even if it is a controlled scrimmage vibe to it instead of like a proper game. I think it's definitely still stuff that fans would be interested in seeing, and that goes for like across the MLR. Like hopefully a couple of these preseason games are made available over the next couple of weeks here as we look to build up towards to the season. Obviously Toronto's got one more preseason game with Old Glory. That's in 2 weeks' time. I believe Old Glory plays New York next week as well.
Yep.
So yeah, they're gonna go a couple teams working out a little bit of different preseason styles and the way they kind of go about that. But yeah, like I think it's like we'll see how the rest of the preseason shakes out over the next couple weeks, and I mean, sounds like the game went pretty well. Seems like the Arrows are happy with how it went anyways. Seems like New York might be happy with how it went too. So hopefully both teams got the most out of that game and out of that trip, and hopefully it was entertaining for any fans that did make the trip down there.
Yeah, well, at least if you're fans of the Arrows or the Ironworkers or just rugby fans in Detroit, that you were able to actually go to a preseason game, because unfortunately, the other preseason game that was supposed to happen the last weekend between Houston and NOLA had to be cancelled, and this is because NOLA suffered a outbreak of COVID-19 within the team and therefore decided not to travel. This is also a reminder to everyone out there: COVID is still a thing. Make sure you're keep washing your hands. In cold weather such as this, still wearing a mask where required. Now, it wasn't all completely lost, because Houston announced that prior to the fixture date is due to team illness, Nola Gold will not be available for Saturday's preseason game, but instead they had an open practice and a kids rugby clinic on the Saturday instead, with free entry and free parking. So again, making the most of a bad situation. So it's fortunately worked out for them. But yeah, remember, guys, COVID-19 still a thing, still kicking around. So please.
Hopefully everyone on the NOLA Gold is going to be healthy and ready to go for the season to start as well.
Yeah. So we do have some preseason fixtures coming up this coming weekend. So as mentioned, the Rugby New York Ironworkers will be taking on Old Glory DC. NOLA Gold, hopefully they'll be recovered by this point, will be heading down to Dallas to take on the Jackals, and Utah will be hosting Rugby ATL. And on the Sunday, we have the Seattle Seawolves playing the American Raptors. A bit of a cross-league preseason between the Seattle Seawolves of MLR and the American Raptors of Super Rugby America. So I don't know. I think that'll be a good game. If there's going to be any report on that or any highlights that are able to watch, I'd be interested to see who comes out on top in that. Those are the fixtures that are coming up of the preseason. As I said, still more to come as we count down to the start of MLR 2023. Now we're going to take a brief trip to the other side of the world, or the other side of the Pacific, I should say, as Sydney hosted their round of the World 7 series. So, you know what? I'm just going to rip the Band-Aid off. It has not been a great season for Canada so far. For the men, it's been pretty bad for the past 3 tournaments in a row. They've at least finished 14th. But today they finished 15th, so they lost the 13th place semi-finals. And when you lose that, you don't have a match to determine if you finish 16th or 15th. You're just both told you're the bottom, don't worry about it, hit the showers and prepare again for the next tournament. But to put it in the current world rankings, or the Rugby 7 standings, I should say, Canada men's have got 7 points from Hong Kong, and 2 points from Dubai, 2 points from Cape Town, 2 points from Hamilton, 1 point from Sydney. That puts them total of 14 points. To put that in contrast, Tonga, who is not a core team like Canada, only appeared at the Hamilton and Sydney sevens, and they have amassed 12 points. So in 2 tournaments, they have nearly matched what the Canadian men's sevens team have been able to do. So yeah, it's not looking great. And of course, we have mentioned previously that the World 7 Series will be changing from next season. So at the moment, Canada are ranked 14th in the standings. And that means they are in the relegation 4-team playoff competition.
3-team playoff.
Oh, it's 3 teams from the men's sevens competition, and the challenge series winner of 2023 will be in that 4-team playoff to determine who is the 12th spot next year. So currently they'd be up against Kenya and Spain. Spain is currently on 18 points, so 4 points ahead, and Kenya is on 21, and they are 7 points ahead.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's not looking great at the moment. Now, they still have time to turn things around. Obviously, it's going to be, I believe, a month until the next leg of the World Seven Series. But if they are going to turn it around, they need to turn it around pretty soon because, yeah, it's not looking good.
Not a ton of time left.
For now, a bit of better fortunes on the women's side. Again, not great. We are now past the halfway mark of the women's seven series, which is 7 locations at the moment. So in Sydney, they finish 9th. Again, not great. It's still the lower half of the competition, but they have 4 points from Dubai, 6 points from Cape Town, 2 points from Hamilton, 4 points from Sydney. That currently places them 16th. They are only 1 point behind Spain and 5 points behind Japan, who are in 8th. And then there's Britain, who are in 6th, but they are Britain, who are in 7th, but they are 36 points ahead and tied with Fiji at the moment. So I don't see them catching up anytime soon. Of course, it's basically the Blackburn Sevens who are doing the business at the moment, having won the last 3 tournaments in a row, and only Australia winning the other one, with New Zealand finishing silver in that. So it's not looking good. However, there isn't any risk for the Canadian women's sevens at the moment compared to the men's. So obviously, both need to do better if they want to help secure the position. But obviously, you know, it helps to support a team that's winning, I feel. Derek, were you able to catch any of the action this past weekend?
Unfortunately not. I'll have to hit the CBC app and get caught up on everything.
Yeah. Well, I watched a couple of the men's highlights, and then after a point, you just have to stop because it's not fun watching your team lose continuously. It's especially they had a game against Argentina, and they were doing really well, and then the Pumas just got 2 scores right at the end, and it was just like, oh, it's another loss. It's another depressing moment in Canadian men's sevens. But it is what it is. I mean, as been said so far, we know that there's only going to be 7 stages of the World Sevens next year going forward. There's no confirmation of what those locations are going to be, although it has been revealed that Hamilton will not be one of those locations.
Yeah.
So, there's still the hope that Vancouver sticks around. Obviously, this is the first time that Vancouver is becoming a doubleheader with the women's event joining at BC Place. But, it obviously helps to strengthen your position if, your team's doing really well. So, yeah, there's not really much else to say about that. But yeah, the next stage of the Sevens tournament will be in Los Angeles for the men, and in the aforementioned Vancouver Sevens for the women. So, about a month to sort themselves out and hopefully be getting better results, especially in front of home crowds, or as close to home crowds as you can get in Los Angeles. All right, so we've gone from preseason MLR to the current 7 series, but the big tournament that is coming back is, of course, the Six Nations. And there's been a lot of change since the Autumn Internationals. Eddie Jones is out, Wayne Pivac is out, Warren Gatland is back, Steve Broadwick has come in. There's been falling out in the French Rugby Union as well with relations to hosting the World Cup. Injuries left, right, and center. Injuries currently ongoing if you're following any of the team's social media pages of, I think it's like England, anytime they announce something, the next post is always, oh, this person's injured and has had to be withdrawn, and here's someone else that's coming into the team. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting tournament to say the least. We're starting off with Wales hosting Ireland, and it's going to be the Calcutta Cup match afterwards between England and Scotland. Derek, do you have any predictions for this year's Six Nations?
Do you mean like just the first round, or the whole thing or the tournament as a whole?
Yeah, first round overall, and something out of left field.
All right. Well, I'll say Ireland's going to beat Wales first round. England's going to beat Scotland. France will beat Italy. And then I'm going to say, let's go with, I'm going to say England wins the Six Nations.
Okay.
Which will be my both mix of bold ones. But then I think England's going to win the Six Nations, but they're not going to do very well at the World Cup.
Okay, that's interesting, and stretching out to
stretching
the World Cup itself. I mean,
France might win the World Cup. I know that's not exactly bold given how they're playing, but I think France might win the World Cup. If I want to go,
all right. I'm gonna say that Wales beat Ireland.
Oh, what a shock! What a shock!
What a shock! The Welshman supports Wales. But it's only going to be like a narrow win. Like they're going to make Ireland concede a penalty in the 78th minute, and that's the penalty that wins the game.
It's Wales. They'll find a way to disappoint you.
Yeah, I know. I think Scotland are going to retain the Calcutta Cup. I think Italy are going to run the gauntlet with France. I think it's going to be a very close affair between the Azzurri and Les Bleus.
No.
But I do see France coming out on top.
Yeah.
Bold prediction, I think Ireland are going to win the Six Nations.
Oh.
And out of left field, I think that Wales are going to win at least 2 games this tournament.
Who call your shot? Who are they going to be? Who's the?
I think they're going to shock Ireland because Ireland are going to be expecting Wayne Pivac style rugby instead of Warren Gatland style rugby.
Sure.
And probably Scotland.
Yeah. Just saying. So just to be clear, you're calling Italy beating Wales.
I can see Italy beating Wales because they're playing in Italy this time around. So
that's true.
Yeah. And also, I think injuries will come into effect. There's already been a number of injuries to the squad already. So they'll be doing like a few switches because they'll be preparing for France, which they'll probably lose anyway. So
I love Welsh rugby fans. They're like, yeah, we're going to beat Ireland, but then we're going to lose to Italy, which just sums up Welsh rugby, really.
Yeah, pretty much. When you've been here long enough, you just you learn to accept the pessimism.
I can't wait
in every situation.
I can't wait for all of them to get their ass kicked by South Africa, who's the true champion of that continent, anyways.
So Scotland.
Yeah, I guess. Oh, maybe. Yeah, that's actually what should happen. If South Africa can compete in the URC, that should be like the final of there should be an extra week of the Six Nations where it's whoever's the Six Nation champion has to play South Africa, and if they lose, they don't get to claim the Six Nation title because they're not the best team in Europe. Because we're using rugby geography now, and South Africa is a part of Europe.
Well, you can go on the limit of saying that South Africa are the defending world champions, so they can win the Six Nations, but if they can't beat South Africa, then they can never become world champions.
Well, South Africa's got to defend their title at the World Cup.
Yeah, but this is like outside of the World Cup, so it's like if you can't beat us, if you can't beat us in a tournament in a match that doesn't matter, then you can't beat us at all.
Should we forget about Georgia and say like whoever finishes 6th this year gets relegated and replaced by South Africa? And then I just want to see South Africa go on like an 8-year run of like destroying the Six Nations.
I'd say they can do that, but they have to withdraw from the rugby championship.
That's fine. Rugby champ. We can. Who can we send to the rugby championship?
Japan.
No, I was gonna say based on rugby geography, Canada, we can go.
Yeah.
We got nothing going on.
Yeah, we got
year.
nothing else. Yeah.
Yeah, we got nothing going on this year. Let's go. We can go play. Yeah, let's go. Yeah, Canada. Who'd you say? Japan? Yeah.
Yeah.
All the red and white nations united.
Anyway, those are our predictions of the Six Nations, and I guess part of the World Cup as well. But if you're looking to watch any rugby this weekend, then you can catch the Six Nations, where they will be available on DAZN. So DAZN is showing it in Canada. And yeah, with that monthly subscription, you'll be able to get all the Six Nations. And as I just discovered, 15 of the Rugby World Cup warm-up fixtures that will be happening this summer. So, definitely worth keeping that subscription around for the rest of the season. But anyway, I think we are going to end it there. A very short episode. Obviously, we're hoping that we'll have more to discuss next time. But if you want to pay attention to our social media pages to find out all that information that as soon as we get it, we'll pass it on to you. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Le Rouge Rugby. If you like listening to this podcast and would like to listen to more episodes, you can do so on Spotify, Anchor FM, and Apple Podcasts. And if you'd like to subscribe to our YouTube channel, where we have footage of all our recordings, as well as some offhand interviews with players and coaches, you can do so. Again, that'll be at YouTube at Le Rouge Rugby. Derek, where can the fine people find you on social media?
At Brissette the Jet across all social media platforms.
And you can find me across all social media at Hardman, spelled H4RDMAN. Well, Derek, thank you again for joining me for this short episode of the Rouge Rugby podcast. And thank you all for joining us as we talk about, mainly Six Nations and Sevens, but also some real Canadian rugby. We hope you can join us again next time.